Hey, this is Mike Rusczyk. This is my cover. I've not been on any cover besides this cover.
Where the hell's this magazine from?
This is the best part about this is I'm a Polish guy in Scotland skating, and I got a cover of a French magazine called Freestyler, which is like a bike thing, right? In some ways. The background of this is pretty rad. So I went on a trip to Scotland with this weird kind of promotion thing where it was Steve Caballero, Carl Watson, Matt Beach, the whole faction, and me. And some promoter kid who was like an ex-rollerblader brought everybody over to have like a show and like big kind of sort of like Warped Tour-y kind of micro event thing.
Okay.
Aberdeen, Scotland. That's where Rattray's from.
Yeah.
And so we get out there, and a pretty interesting crew. And we start meeting all the skaters, and we met Div, who's a notorious
Div Adams.
legend. Yeah, Div Adams. And then Alex Irvine, who shot this, which I'll talk more about in a second, and Andy Dobson. And immediately when we get there, there's almost like a split. Like all the, regular guys are all kind of just hanging out at the event, and then a few of us are like hanging out, partying, drinking, going out with all the Scottish dudes. So this in particular was us out. It was such a shitty, I guess that's probably how Scotland is in general. It was such a shitty like almost like it's gonna rain any second.
Right.
Weird windy day, and they're like, "Oh, let's go down to the seawall, and you might dig it." And you can kind of see in the cover, it's like dark and just kind of like gritty, and
It's still daytime?
yeah, that's like towards the end of the night,
Okay.
like or towards the end of the day.
Yeah.
So the sun's setting. We set up really quick, and this is a lot like a very rugged version of the Chicago spot. It's
Yeah.
called Seawalls.
Right.
So I've skated Seawalls a lot, and so we're like, hey, well, let's try to get a trick really quick, because it's such a sick spot. And I was doing some frontside ollies on it, and then I'm like, I'll just do a nollie on it, and lo and behold, we got a nollie.
Nollie.
Yeah, it's a frontside
okay.
nollie.
Cool.
Yeah, there's even a little thing, nollie front.
Ah.
Nollie front. I guess in France that's what it's called.
And so the Quickcrete was already there.
Yeah,
to get
so
up
they
on the wall?
had that's been there for a while too.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some footage of Rattray ripping this thing and
Yeah.
probably doing frontside ollies super high on it, or I forget what footing is, but
Do you remember seeing it for the first time in print?
yeah. Well, it was funny because later on I became really good friends with Alex, and he actually came to. We rented an apartment in Barcelona for a month, and he's like, "Hey, I think I can come down and shoot you guys." He ended up shooting my old jack. I got a new jack in the skateboard mag, but I was so old at that point that it was an old jack. He shot half of that in Barcelona, and he brought the mag with him to our apartment in Barcelona, and so we're all hanging out, and he's like, "Oh, by the way,
Here.
yeah, I've got this for you," because it's like he's all over in Scotland, so he's not like sending me packages of stuff,
Yeah.
So that was the first time I saw it. I'm so stoked though, like it went missing, I didn't. It's a pretty obscure magazine.
Well, right. And it took 2 different people in France sending us copies. The first guy that sent a copy got lost in the mail. I got the envelope, no magazine inside.
with nothing inside it.
And
Holy
then
shit.
more recently, another gentleman sent this copy. So, we've got quite a few freestylers, but we didn't have this issue, and we still need a ton more of freestylers and sugars.
It's funny because I didn't know nothing about. I mean, it's the classic thing where you don't know much about the European mags over here, and then I'm like, oh, like, because I knew Slam, and I knew like there was a series of things that like you get, what I mean, but it's like you don't get this,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh wow, and then you start learning about the French skate scene, and you're like, oh my god, this is sick.
I love
Good mag though, good coat.
I love how you have the Ellington shoes on. Very,
I know.
Very bold. America Ellingtons.
I love that shoe. Awesome. I've got really fucked up feet, so that shoe worked really good for my fucked up feet. Yeah, it was good, man. We made some good friends there. Scotland was so good to us. We were out drinking every night, ended up at the pie shop at the end of the night, and watching the fights at
Yeah.
the pie shop.
Now, I always like to ask everybody about classic covers, anything that influenced you as a younger skater.
You know, it's one that always stands out, and I don't know why. I was a huge Mike Carroll fan forever. Like, he's, you know, obviously who he is.
Yeah.
But that slap cover of him like grinding, and it's almost like he's riding the middle of that rail. That's got like the two rails on the side,
Mhm.
and it's almost like it's not even like a handrail. It's like it's almost like he's just like cruising on this big fat bar with a transition at the bottom. And I remember thinking, wow, that looks sort of doable, but that looks insane. That
Have you seen a spot now in person?
No, I bet
Yeah.
it's totally insane.
Yeah. So that's slap number 1.
Oh, yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
I had a good relationship with Slap. They were always so good to me.
Anything else?
Yeah, there's a lot of
jump out?
covers. What was I forget. I remember the Gonz interview in Power Edge where he jumps the car and does the dark slide. I forget what he had on the cover. Maybe I don't remember that cover, but I remember that issue.
That interview. Yeah.
What's another one that stands out? Do you remember? This is a bad cover, but in a good way. The Simon Woodstock fish tank
Fishbowl,
cover. Like, that one is like one of the ones that you're like, what's up with this dude? Why is this on here? And what's going on? And then you're like, oh, this is pretty rad.
Very memorable. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other day I watched the footage of him olling Wallingberg on like
the skimboard.
Yeah, skimboard, and I'm like, that is the gnarliest thing ever.
Yeah.
It's so gnarly.
Where are we right now?
We're in Santa Rosa at my house. This is my backyard that I never skate.
Oh,
My kid skates it. I made it way too gnarly.
it
Like I
is
said, I made it for the old me, not the old me.
it's challenging. Go around this corner, pool coping, quarter pipe back there.
This is where my dog poops a lot. Like, I cleaned up my new dog's poop right there. That's where the dog poops all the time.
Awesome, Michael. I think that about covers it.
Killer.
Thanks for
Covers
getting
it.
together.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks, man.